Have you ever looked at your family and thought, why do I feel so different from everyone else? Like you were born into the same bloodline, but carrying a completely different assignment. What if I told you that the battles you've faced, the loneliness you've endured, and the wisdom you've gained were never random, but signs that you are the chosen one in your family? There's a reason you were given the hardest battles. There's a reason you never fit in. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why you were chosen and what it means for the legacy you're building. You didn't choose your family. You didn't pick your environment. But what was planted in you was divine. Being the chosen one in your family is not about being better. It's about being called. And those who are called often start their journey in pain, in silence, and in what seems like abandonment. But don't get it twisted. That isolation is training. That pain is shaping your purpose, and that discomfort is not a curse. It's a calling. From the time you were a child, you probably sensed something was off. Maybe you noticed how others in your family followed generational patterns. Drama, trauma, addiction, emotional dysfunction. And you couldn't bring yourself to walk the same path. They might have laughed at your dreams, mocked your ideas, or told you to be realistic. But what they didn't understand was this. You weren't built to repeat cycles. You were born to break them. When God assigns someone to be the breaker of generational curses, He places a fire in their spirit that can't be extinguished. Even when you feel exhausted, even when nobody believes in you, even when you doubt yourself, that fire still burns. You're the one in your family who sees things others refuse to see. You feel things deeper. You question everything. You dream bigger. You heal louder. And yes, you hurt harder too. The first sign that you are the chosen one in your family is that you never fit in, and you were never meant to. This isn't about being the black sheep in a negative sense. No, this is spiritual. You were set apart from birth, the same way Joseph was rejected by his brothers in the Bible. They hated him for his dreams. They threw him into a pit. But what they didn't know was that God had already marked him to be the one to save them all. You might have felt that same rejection from siblings, parents, cousins, or extended family. You were labeled the weird one, the too sensitive one, the too ambitious one. But that's exactly what makes you the one chosen to lead your family into healing, into freedom, and into spiritual elevation. And that's why your journey has been heavier. You've carried burdens that others don't even recognize. You've been misunderstood because your vision was never meant to make sense to people who were comfortable in dysfunction. You see, chosen ones don't just grow up in families. They grow through them. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every abandonment was preparing you for a higher calling. And now, you're beginning to realize that your story has purpose beyond the pain. You've been called to shift the vibration of your entire bloodline. Where there was silence, you speak. Where there was fear, you act. Where there was shame, you heal. You are the prayer your ancestors whispered when they had no voice. You are the vision they never got to see fulfilled. And now, it's on you, not just to carry that legacy, but to transform it. Some days you may wonder, why me? Why did I get the hardest path? Why am I always the one who sees the truth, feels the pain, and does the work? But here's the answer. Because God trusted you. He saw your heart. He knew you would not only survive, but rise. And in rising, you would lift others too. This is why many chosen ones experience spiritual warfare early on. The enemy always tries to destroy what's divine before it matures. He knew the moment you were born that your light would expose the darkness in your bloodline, that your presence would agitate those who benefit from brokenness, that your voice would break chains, so he tried to silence you early. But look at you, still rising, still glowing, still healing, still choosing faith over fear, even when the odds are stacked. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's your superpower. Your emotions aren't a burden. They're how you channel divine guidance. You might have been gaslit growing up, told you were too much or too emotional, But the truth is, you were tapped into something deeper. That discernment, that intuition, that deep knowing, it's the Spirit working in you, preparing you, leading you, anointing you. This is why isolation became familiar. Not because something was wrong with you, but because something was right with you. You had to be pulled away so you could tune in, so you could hear God clearly, so you could heal the parts of you that others refuse to acknowledge. Chosen ones are often separated before they are elevated. And now you're realizing that everything you went through wasn't punishment. It was positioning. It was preparation. Because what's coming requires strength. It requires wisdom. It requires spiritual depth. And you've been earning that in the quiet moments, in the pain, in the shadow. Behind the scenes, you were becoming the version of you that your family, your community, and this world desperately needs. Let this be your confirmation. You are not alone. You're not crazy. You're not cursed. You are called, appointed, set apart for something bigger than what you can even imagine. And the pain you've endured is going to be the same pain that unlocks someone else's breakthrough. Your healing is the blueprint. Your voice is the key. And your presence is proof that divine intervention is real. The second undeniable sign that you are the chosen one in your family is this. You carry the weight of emotional and spiritual responsibility. Without being asked, you feel it. You sense when something is wrong in the room. You're the one people call when everything falls apart. You might not always have the answers, but they feel peace in your presence. And yet, when you need someone to lean on, it often feels like there's no one there. That's not an accident. You've been assigned a spiritual role in your family, one that often goes unspoken and unrecognized. You weren't taught how to do this, but somehow, you just know. When your mother breaks down, you're the one holding her together. When your siblings are in chaos, they come to you for clarity. When generational pain erupts again, you feel it in your body like a vibration. This isn't just empathy, it's a calling, a spiritual inheritance that only you were built to carry. Not because you're stronger in the worldly sense, but because your spirit is more attuned to higher truth. It's not fair, I know. It's exhausting at times. You've cried silent tears wondering why you're the only one who sees the patterns, the toxicity, the need for change. But chosen ones see differently because they are meant to lead differently. You're not just here to exist. You're here to awaken. You may have even experienced times when the people closest to you turned against you for speaking the truth, for trying to set boundaries, for choosing peace over pleasing others. That's because your presence disrupts the old programming. When you heal, it forces others to look at what they haven't dealt with. And not everyone is ready to face their demons. So instead, they push away the light until they realize they needed it all along. But don't let their resistance stop you from becoming. This part of the journey is sacred. The emotional burdens you carry, the ones no one claps for or celebrates, are being honored in the spiritual realm. Every time you choose healing instead of hate, growth instead of gossip, truth instead of toxicity, you are planting seeds that will bloom for generations. You were never meant to carry this alone, but in this season, God is building you through it. He's sharpening your discernment, deepening your capacity to love, and giving you spiritual tools to handle things others can't comprehend. That's why you feel things so intensely. That's why your spirit feels heavier at times. Because you're processing things that were never meant to stay hidden anymore. And maybe you've noticed this. When you're around certain family members, your energy drains quickly. It's not because you don't love them. It's because their spirit hasn't aligned with your elevation yet. Their chaos collides with your clarity. Their denial can't coexist with your awakening. And your soul knows it. This is the part of the journey where many chosen ones struggle, because you don't want to walk away from your people. You want to bring them with you. But here's the divine truth. You can't force transformation on people who are still addicted to survival. Your light may be for them, but your path is between you and God. Which brings us to the third sign that you are the chosen one in your family. Your awakening began with deep, often painful isolation. But that isolation became the gateway to your transformation. Maybe it started when you began to question religion, or when you stopped tolerating unhealthy patterns. Maybe it started when you lost a relationship, or when you sat alone crying out for clarity. Whatever triggered it, you reached a point where you couldn't do surface living anymore. You had to go inward. You had to break. You had to rebuild. And in that silence, God met you. Not in a loud sermon, not through someone else's approval, but in the quiet moments when you were stripped of everything you thought defined you. That's when the real journey began. Because chosen ones aren't awakened in comfort. They're awakened in the wilderness. Your wilderness season wasn't a punishment. It was sacred separation, a holy boot camp. God had to get you alone so you could unlearn what the world taught you and remember what He placed inside you. He had to pull you out of the crowd to show you your true crown. And now that you're coming into that awareness, you feel different. You move different. You don't crave validation like you used to. You don't chase relationships that don't feed your soul. You're learning that peace is more important than being liked. And you're no longer afraid to walk alone, because you're walking with God. This awakening is painful because it requires you to shed every version of yourself that was built for survival, not for purpose. It forces you to leave behind people, places, and patterns that feel familiar but are no longer aligned. And it teaches you something powerful. Being chosen often means being misunderstood, rejected, and doubted by the very people you love the most. But here's the divine reversal. Everything you lost during your isolation is being restored through your elevation. You didn't lose them. You found you. And the new version of you is stronger, wiser, softer in spirit, but sharper in truth. You no longer need to explain your calling to anyone. Your energy speaks for you. Your spirit confirms you. Your life will be the evidence. You are being raised up not to shame your family, but to show them what is possible. You are the blueprint for healing, the evidence of spiritual growth, the mirror that reflects both truth and grace. And yes, your journey is harder, but so is building a bridge over generations of pain. And that's exactly what you're doing. Let this moment serve as your reminder. You're not behind. You're not broken. You are becoming. And everything that once made you feel like an outsider is actually what confirms that you're the one sent to lead. You didn't come from your family just to continue the legacy. You came to shift it, to expand it, to elevate it. Your awakening is not a detour. It is the divine path. And you're walking it beautifully, even if no one else sees the steps you're taking. As this awareness grows inside you, so does something else, something sacred and unshakable. A quiet but powerful knowing that your life is being guided by something much greater than coincidence. This isn't random. Your calling, your burdens, your sensitivity to truth and energy. It's all part of a bigger picture that you're only beginning to glimpse. And even though you've walked through the fire, what's rising from the ashes is a version of you that was always destined to lead, not follow. You've already felt the shift. You're not interested in gossip or drama anymore. You don't find peace in chaos the way others in your family might. You crave growth, depth, purpose, and that can be hard when you're surrounded by people still clinging to the familiar pain of the past. It's why conversations feel shallow. It's why holidays feel heavy. It's why you feel like a stranger in your own bloodline sometimes. Because while others are recycling generational cycles, you've decided to rise above them. And that makes you different. Not better, but chosen. This third sign is deeper than just recognizing your role. It's about honoring your transformation, even when no one else does. When you're the chosen one in your family, you become the mirror they didn't ask for. You reflect what needs healing, what needs releasing, and what no longer works. And that can be uncomfortable for people who've built their entire identity around unhealed trauma. But don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Don't silence your growth just because it makes someone else question their stagnation. You didn't come this far just to play small in the same spaces that once suffocated your soul. You were chosen to elevate, and that elevation may cost you relationships, validation, and even closeness with family. But it will give you freedom, alignment, and peace. And here's the wild truth. Even the ones who mock you, distance themselves, or misunderstand your journey, they feel your growth. They feel the shift in your energy. And deep down, many of them admire it, even if their ego won't allow them to say it out loud. Because transformation is magnetic, and when they're ready, your life will serve as the blueprint for their own change. But don't wait for them to catch up. Don't pause your purpose waiting for applause. The path of the chosen one is often lonely at first, but it becomes deeply fulfilling when you stop searching for understanding and start walking in truth. This season of your life is all about alignment. You're being called to protect your energy, guard your peace, and walk boldly in your purpose, even if it means being the black sheep of your family. What others call rebellion, God calls obedience. What they call distance, God calls protection. You're not walking away from them. You're walking toward Him. Let yourself become what they said you couldn't be. Let yourself heal in places they told you to hide. Let yourself thrive in the spaces they never imagined you'd enter. Because every scar, every rejection, every misunderstanding, it's all part of your spiritual resume. You're not just a survivor. You're a cycle breaker, a generational curse destroyer, a light bearer. And make no mistake, the enemy knew who you were before you did. That's why the attacks started early. That's why you were targeted while others were celebrated. That's why you faced more storms than anyone else in your circle. Because your awakening is dangerous to darkness. Your voice is powerful. Your light exposes what's been hidden for generations. That's why they couldn't embrace you fully. That's why you felt the tension. But you didn't fold. You didn't break. And even when you wanted to give up, something inside you kept rising. That something, that's your divine anointing. That's what sets you apart. That's what confirms your role in this lifetime. And now that you know the truth, you're being called to embody it. This is no longer about waiting to be chosen. It's about walking like you already are. Because you are. You've always been, and everything you've been through was preparing you for this revelation. The final stage of this sign is when you stop needing permission to be who God called you to be. You stop explaining. You stop justifying. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who can't see your value. You become rooted in purpose, anchored in truth, and guided by the divine voice that's been speaking to you all along. This is your season to stop second-guessing your calling and start owning it, not with arrogance, but with assurance, not with ego, but with elegance. You're not here to convince anyone anymore. You're here to walk in it. And as you do, the right people will recognize you. The right doors will open. The right alignments will come. Because now your life is becoming the evidence of what faith, obedience, and transformation can truly look like. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are becoming. Every challenge shaped you. Every rejection redirected you. Every moment of silence was sacred preparation. And now, the world is about to witness what God has been building in the dark. You didn't go through all of that just to survive. You were called to lead. And you don't need a title to do it. Your presence is enough. Your energy is your testimony. Your peace is your proof. Remember, the chosen ones are rarely the loudest, but their impact is undeniable. They don't force themselves into spaces. They transform spaces by simply being present. And that's exactly what you're here to do. So as you continue this journey, trust that the path is unfolding exactly as it should. You're not alone. You're aligned. And the more you honor your role as the chosen one in your family, the more God will elevate you in ways no one can deny. Now that you've recognized that your awakening came through isolation, and that it wasn't meant to destroy you but to develop you, you're beginning to see the divine pattern in everything. What once looked like rejection, loneliness, and confusion is now starting to reveal itself as divine redirection, preparation, and purification. This next level of your journey as the chosen one brings something few people understand. Yet every chosen soul feels deeply. You've been assigned the responsibility of ending cycles that others in your bloodline accepted as normal. You are not just chosen, you are a cycle breaker. And that comes with a level of pressure and spiritual warfare that would crush anyone not built for it. You were born into a family where emotional suppression was the norm, where trauma was swept under the rug, where spiritual gifts were either silenced or mocked, where fear, scarcity, or shame dictated decisions. But something in you said, no more. Something in you rose up, even if you didn't have the words for it at the time. You looked at the dysfunction and thought, this can't be it. There has to be more. That knowing wasn't arrogance. It was your anointing whispering. You were sent here to change this. And when you decided to stop participating in what hurt you, that's when everything shifted. You stopped showing up to the drama. You started going within. You broke ties with toxicity, even when it meant being alone. You began healing, learning, evolving. And without even realizing it, you were breaking chains, invisible chains, ancestral chains, spiritual patterns passed down for generations. You are the first in your family to say no to certain things, the first to walk away from unhealthy dynamics, the first to set boundaries, to prioritize mental and spiritual health, to confront deep wounds. And because you're the first, it often feels like you're walking in the dark with no guide. But the truth is, you're the guide. You're creating the map for those who come after you. And here's what most people don't understand. The battle chosen ones face is not external. It's internal. It's spiritual. You've had to battle voices in your mind that said you're not enough. That said you're crazy for leaving what was comfortable. That said, who do you think you are to break this cycle? But every time you chose growth, you silenced that voice a little more. Every time you said yes to your higher self, the old programming lost its grip. There's a reason your spirit was born into that particular family. There's a reason you weren't like the others. There's a reason you felt out of place in your own home. It's because you weren't there to blend in. You were sent to build something new. And that kind of calling doesn't come with applause. It comes with resistance, criticism, spiritual attacks, and a deep need to trust God when nothing makes sense. The truth is, most people in your family might never understand you. They might never say thank you. They might not see the sacrifices you've made, the healing you've done, or the curses you've broken. But heaven sees it. The angels see it. God sees it. And the fruit of your obedience will show up in ways you can't even imagine yet. You may notice that since stepping into your purpose, some family members have grown distant or even hostile. That's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because your light reveals what they're still hiding. Your growth makes them uncomfortable. Your freedom triggers their bondage. But you can't dim your light just to make others feel safe in the dark. You weren't called to fit in. You were called to transform. As you continue this journey, you'll start to notice something else. You begin attracting new family, not by blood, but by spirit. Soul connections, kindred spirits, people who see you, hear you, and love you without condition. These are divine replacements, sent by God to remind you that you are never truly alone, that your obedience is not in vain, that your light has a home, even if it's not always in your bloodline. You are building a new legacy, one built on truth, healing, wholeness, and divine alignment. And that legacy will ripple across time. It may start small, with you, right now, but the impact will be felt for generations. Children you haven't even met will benefit from the healing you're doing today. Futures will be brighter because you dared to break the cycle. Let this truth sink in. You are not cursed. You are called. And the weight you carry is a sign of how powerful your purpose truly is. Don't shrink back when it gets heavy. Don't let the enemy trick you into thinking your isolation means you're forgotten. You are in spiritual training for something greater. The load may be heavy, but so is the anointing. God didn't choose the strongest. He chose the most willing. And your willingness to keep growing, even in silence, even when misunderstood, that's what sets you apart. That's what confirms you are the chosen one in your family. You may have been overlooked in the natural, but you are crowned in the spiritual. You may not have the approval of the world, but you are walking with divine authority. And the moment you start owning that truth fully is the moment everything begins to align. Stay grounded in your purpose. Stay anchored in your faith. And know this, your story isn't just yours. It's a divine assignment wrapped in pain, purpose, and prophecy. You are not here to repeat history. You are here to rewrite it. And now, chosen one, we've reached the final stretch of this powerful revelation. You've seen the signs. You've felt them resonate in your bones. But this last piece, this is where it all comes together. This is where you realize that being the chosen one isn't just about carrying a burden. It's about holding the light for an entire generation. As the truth continues to unfold in your life, you'll notice something undeniable. You were set apart from the very beginning. It wasn't just that you were different. It was that your spirit carried something eternal, something ancient, something sacred. You may have tried to blend in, to fit the mold, to be like the others in your family. But deep down, you always knew you were wired differently. Every room you enter, you carry a presence that shifts the atmosphere. You're not always the loudest. You don't need to be, but your silence, it speaks volumes. Your intuition, it sees through layers of dysfunction and patterns that others have been blind to for decades. And your actions, they ripple through your bloodline, shaking things up spiritually and energetically in ways even you might not fully understand yet. But understand this, you're not just breaking curses, you're building legacies. See, many in your family have survived. But you were called to thrive. Many have tolerated cycles, but you were anointed to destroy them. You were sent not to judge, not to blame, but to understand and transform. That kind of calling, it comes with isolation, with misunderstanding, with pressure, but it also comes with power. The kind of power that cannot be shaken by gossip, betrayal, or disbelief. Remember this, when God places favor on someone's life, it often makes those around them uncomfortable. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your light is revealing their shadows. Your growth is showing them their stagnation. Your purpose is stirring something in them that's been dormant for years. That's not your fault. And it's not your job to shrink so others feel comfortable in their cages. In fact, your rise is the invitation. Your life is the example. And your courage is the permission slip for others to rise too. That's what makes you the chosen one. Not the approval of your family, not validation from the ones who doubted you, but the fruit of your transformation. The healing that flows from your obedience, the clarity that flows from your surrender, and the doors that keep opening, not because you forced them, but because you were faithful when no one else was watching. If you've been wondering why you were born into that particular family, in that specific environment, with those exact people, know this, you were placed there strategically, not to become like them, but to become the version of yourself that only that environment could create. God doesn't make mistakes. He plants warriors in battle zones. He sends healers into broken bloodlines, and He calls leaders out of obscurity. You weren't cursed to be born into dysfunction. You were chosen to end it. Yes, they may have talked about you. Yes, they may have left you out. Yes, they may have said you'd never make it. But you're still here, stronger, wiser, more grounded than ever. And as your journey unfolds, something wild starts to happen. The very people who overlooked you will start to look up to you. The ones who dismissed you will come seeking your wisdom. The ones who thought you were too sensitive, too deep, too different, will one day realize you were the one with the vision. But by then, you won't be seeking their validation, because your validation will come from alignment, from obedience, from knowing you did what God called you to do, whether they got it or not, whether they supported you or not, whether they clapped for you or not, because at the end of the day, you were never chosen by them. You were chosen by God. And let me tell you something beautiful. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. So if you feel unworthy sometimes, good. That means you're in the right place. That means you're not leaning on your own strength, but relying on divine guidance. That means you're not full of pride. You're full of purpose. And when God sees a heart like that, He releases favor that no man can stop. So walk with boldness now. Don't explain your journey to people who haven't walked in your shoes. Don't downplay your growth to protect someone else's comfort. And don't delay your destiny trying to convince people you were sent to free. Some of them will never understand. But that's okay, because freedom doesn't require agreement, only obedience. You are the chosen one for a reason. And your path, no matter how painful, no matter how isolating, has always been leading to this moment. A moment where your inner healing becomes your outer breakthrough. A moment where the pain you carried becomes the wisdom you share. A moment where your private tears become public triumph. This is your time. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. Now that you've heard this powerful message, I want to hear from you. If this spoke to your spirit and you're ready to rise above every attack, take a moment to comment, "I'm ready," below. Declare your faith, your strength, and your trust in God's plan for your life. Don't forget to hit that like button if you feel inspired, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you never miss a message of encouragement, empowerment, and divine truth. Remember, you were chosen for this moment. If you want to go even deeper and support the channel, consider joining my YouTube membership for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes access, and more. Or you can use super thanks to show your appreciation for the effort that goes into creating this content. Your support means the world to me. You can also check out my shop tab for merchandise that helps support this channel and keeps the messages flowing. For more videos like this, click on the videos in the end screen. Let's keep walking together in faith, and as always, stay connected to your divine purpose.